My final credit card payment.
Before I came to you, I was in a constant state of anxiety and panic, but now there is hope for my family's financial future.
Working with Trinity made me understand that I'm not alone.
You really do help people.
Your kindness will never be forgotten.
Without Trinity's support, I would not have achieved my lifelong goal of becoming debt-free.
We saved a lot on interest and penalties, of course, but the reward was the gift of human kindness.
Trinity has carried me through a very difficult time in my life. You're amazing.
I used to feel so anxious and hopeless. Now I feel grace and peace.
God bless Trinity as you continue to help others become debt-free.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976. That's 1-800-990-6976.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert meteorologist Kristen Cornett with your forecast. Mostly cloudy overnight. We'll drop to 43. For Wednesday, mostly cloudy with a high of 60. We're mostly cloudy Wednesday night as we drop to 45, and our next chance of rain arrives Thursday afternoon. It'll be a cloudy day with a high of 63, and then showers and thunderstorms likely Thursday night. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Kristen Cornett.
The Robb Carter Show on News Talk STL.
All right, everybody, here we go. Today is Tuesday, March 5th, 2024. My name is Robb Carter. Welcome to the future #1 radio program in America, Prime Time Radio. Had a couple good days. Friday and Monday shows are doing very well. The COVID con job on Friday, that show blew up for me. As it should. That's where the whole podcast and everything that I did, that's where it all came from, was the recognition that COVID was a con job, and if that's a con job and there's that many people involved in it, what else is going on? So I'm going to go through the war on free people, because the war on free peoples of the world continues. This is a new war. It's a war that most people don't recognize. They don't understand it. They don't see it. They feel it, but they don't necessarily see it. It's no longer far away. It's no longer off in outer space. It's right here in the United States, and eventually it's going to be on your doorstep. That you can bet on. We have to recognize it. We have to push back against it. We got to get our country back. Hey, I study for this test every single day to bring it to you. I'm doing my damnedest to make sure that people understand what is happening, and they can choose to ignore it. They can get involved in the game. But if you want freedom for the next generation, if that's something that is important to you, if that bothers you that they're going to lose their freedoms, and they're not going to really know it, it's going to be drip, 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 and just it'll be the new way of life. Freedom is, we knew it, will be gone forever. How do you fight a war if you don't recognize that it's happening? And how do you solve a problem unless you first admit that you have one? So we're going to go through all of that today. Couple of housekeeping notes before we get started. Housekeeping! Victoria Newland. She is stepping down. We've talked about Victoria Newland for a long time on this show. She was the mastermind, at least the front person at least, for the war in Ukraine, for the overthrow of the Ukrainian government back in 2014. As I've said many times, she's on tape. She's on recording, famously, doesn't deny it, picking the leaders of Ukraine all the way back in 2014. That's why this whole nonsense about Russia being the aggressor, I'm not saying Russia, anything good or bad about Russia, but the idea that they are the aggressor and we aren't is just absurd beyond all recognition. Anybody that knows anything about what happened in Ukraine with NATO and Russia knows that NATO and the United States were involved in creating separation in that country and then eventually trying to take it over. That's what's happening. I think it's the 51st state, Ukraine. So that's how much I think we have intruded in that neighborhood, on the doorstep, on the border of Russia. Let me talk about this new war that we are facing. This is a different kind of war, as I've said over and over again. You got to recognize it first. You got to see it for what it actually is. It is the erosion of the American Constitution through many different methods. Because once our Constitution is gone, we are the shining, hitty city on the hill. And if we're the shining city on the hill, the one way you take it apart, you can't overthrow the Constitution or you'd have to come in and fight us, and nobody wants to fight an armed country. That's why they want those guns. We'll get to that later. But the only way to do it is to get us to consent. Think about Edward Bernays. We've talked about him before, descendant of Sigmund Freud. Manufacturing consent. They create these scenarios to give the government the ability to, or the authority to come in and fix the day. And when they come to fix the problems that associates of theirs have created, they strip you of your freedoms for your security. That's the method. It's not new. It's been happening around the world. People usually go for it. But Americans, throughout our short existence, have figured it out just in time to push back. I pray every day that that happens again. This one seems a little more complicated for most people to understand. I worry about mental conditioning and all of those types of things. I wonder how this next generation is going to be able to figure it out if there aren't people like me. And believe me, the people like me are starting to grow. People are starting to see it. It's, Tucker Carlson, thank God, is out there. He's explaining what's happening. Joe Rogan has come around. He has a lot of guests on his show. So there are people out there that have big platforms that are beginning to bring on guests to explain how the war on free people is being waged. First thing they want to do is restrict free speech. If you remember what happened during COVID, you saw a test run of what they want to do. They took over the social media sites. They used AI to flag any information that was off of the mainstream narrative, the establishment narrative, and they squashed your voice. They would not let you get your message out. I'm one of them. I started this whole operation because of COVID. And I know that my voice was being squashed. I was kicked off of everything from YouTube to Twitter to Instagram, all of it. Gone. Facebook, bye-bye, Robb. You want to say that hydroxychloroquine and zinc work? No, can't have that. Bye-bye. You want to say that there's been 1,000 studies that masks make no difference whatsoever? If anything, they create bacterial infections that would make a chest infection worse? Can't say that, Robb. Bye-bye. You want to say the elections were manipulated and you want to put 5,000 witnesses out in front of everybody on Facebook? No, Robb. Bye-bye. See you later. And who got in trouble for all that? That was people within the FBI. How come they're not being perp walked on our television sets? Why is that, you think? So you can trample constitutional rights in this country by a police agency, the FBI, and there's no repercussions whatsoever. We just find out and we move on to the next thing. No problem. They restrict your free speech so that you cannot communicate, and they control the narrative. So your ability to communicate with your countrymen, gone. You're only going to get just a little piece of that puzzle. With that ocean of information, you get a thimbleful. You get to say it, but it's like a tree falling in the woods. Who hears it? Unless you're in the surrounding area, you don't hear it. And they beat you to death with propaganda on the corporate news stations, and they addict people to watching it. It's addictive. And they know that. They know how to get you involved. They know how to get you into that vacuum and stay there. And even when you kind of consciously understand that it's happening, you can't stop it. It's like an addiction, like any other addiction. You know, I had a sponsor that's coming in next month. We were talking with him in the studio today. Great guy. I've known him for a long time, been very successful in business. Now he wants to do personal coaching. He got himself sober. His wife got herself sober, and they are fitness fanatics, and they're building a better life through discipline. And I love it. So I wanted them to be sponsors. We've been talking about it for a while. They start with us in April. And that whole idea of controlling your own life used to be what this country was about. We're no longer in control anymore. Very sinister situation beginning to develop. I talk about it as much as I can. I still want to enjoy life. I don't know how much time I have left on this earth. I'm rounding second, heading to third. And I want to enjoy my life just like everybody else, but I do have a moral responsibility to make sure that my children have the same opportunity to be successful, travel this world, and enjoy their lives as I did growing up. So I make it it's a responsibility, it's a calling for me, and I'm going to do it until we get it all settled up one way or another. I'm going down fighting, if you will. Then they want to take your gun rights away. So just think of the first two amendments. They want to limit free speech, and they want to take your guns away. This was from Joe Biden out on X just recently. It says, whether the NRA likes it or not, I am determined to ban assault weapons. I did it once before, and I'll do it again. President Joe Biden. And we'll get into Hillary Clinton, even Donald Trump. Our Lord and Savior Donald Trump wanted to restrict gun rights. I don't like that, and we'll get into that in just a minute. They want to indoctrinate your kids. That's why the Department of Education took over in 1979. I believe it was October the 17th of 1979. The Department of Education was established. This was where the federal government started to bribe the states by getting their curriculum advanced within the states to indoctrinate your kids, to teach them what they want to teach them. Centralized idea of government forced into our schools. Then you have all the money flooding into the colleges. And by the time your kid gets out of kindergarten to first grade, all the way out of high school and into college, you better be really on top of your kids or you'll lose them. You'll lose them to the state. If you remember, MSNBC used to say, hey, it's a community raises your kids. Parents don't raise the kids. We all do. I think the parents should raise their kids because I think they care most about their own children. That's what I believe. They want to control the narrative. They want to control what you're talking about. So if you are a conservative, if you are somebody who listens to talk radio, what was the narrative today? You had Kristen Sinema from Arizona. She is resigning, senator down in Arizona. I believe she is she's a Democrat. She is, I guess, just a lesbian. That's right. What are they called? Same-sex woman? I don't know. Kirsten Sinema. And then you had Victoria Nuland, and then you had Super Tuesday. And that, all of the different opinions on what's going on there is the entire focus. That is the narrative that if you are somebody who pays attention to talk radio, corporate news, MSNBC, CBS, NBC, this is the narrative all day long. Mockingbird Press. Doesn't matter whether you're coming from the right or left. You have to remember that. That is the trick. It doesn't matter if you're coming from the right or the left, just so long as you're in the corporate news bubble, it works. They want to destroy your health. Let me give you some data here. This is right off the NIH website. Nearly 1 in 3 adults, 30.7%, are overweight. More than 2 in 5 adults, 42.4%, have obesity. About 1 in 11 adults, 9.2%, have severe, that's almost 10% of people have severe obesity. About 1 in 6 children and adolescents aged 2 to 19, 16.1%, are overweight. Almost 1 in 5 children and adolescents aged 2 to 19, 19.3%, have obesity. About 1 in 16 children and adolescents 2 to 16, 6.1%, have severe obesity, even as kids. Well, what's causing that? Is that lack of exercise? Is that nutrition in food? Is that medicines that we begin taking? What's going on? I'd like to know why our society looks the way it does, feels the way it does, thinks the way it does. But those are questions that the mainstream media, they don't want you focused on that. They want you focused on hating Democrats, and they want Democrats focused on hating Republicans. They want you looking right and left. They don't like you looking up. Up is the problem, not right or left. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. They want to destroy the family. They're working hard to destroy the family. You got more than 50% of marriages ending in a divorce over the course of the past 10 years. Half of the marriages don't work. It's transactional. They get the state involved. They've got the schools undermining parents. They've created a scenario where people are stressed out of their minds all the time, trying to keep up with the Joneses, trying to make enough money to keep their house and keep those pretty cars, nice furniture, vacations. They want it all. And they sell you on the idea that that is the American dream. The American dream is no longer having a great life with your family, having your kids and your parents live close, having all those relationships among your family all living in a certain area, expanding your name as a family. Those traditions are bye-bye. Now it's get out of the house as fast as you can, kids. Move out of state. Begin your life. Separate from your parents. Don't get married. They are looking to use culture and information and schooling to destroy the family, which should be the fabric of the entire country, but no longer. It's very hard to keep a family together. That's why, Ethan, your family, fantastic. I watched the way your mom and dad worked. Terrific parents, kept you guys together. Got a nice, strong family. That is not easy to do anymore. I couldn't do it, and believe me when I tell you, I wanted to do it. For me, it's a competition more than anything. I just want to make sure that I kept my family together, but I couldn't do it. The pressures of life got the best of us. Didn't work. I'm trying again one more time, but I got to tell you, the idea of destroying family and destroying the church, destroying it all, making sure that we are isolated, anxious, afraid, that is the new mindset in America. They want to flood the borders. Why do they want to flood the borders? We played yesterday. The Chinese mafia called Triad. You have the Sinaloa drug cartel down there. You have open borders, and you have the president of the United States saying, hey, if you want to seek asylum, surge the borders. And now they let anybody in. Well, what does that do to our society? All of those people that are here that are struggling, don't have money, they begin the drug trade. The cartels exacerbate human trafficking, sex trafficking. It destroys the fabric of our inner cities. It destroys the culture. It destroys unity. It destroys everything within your country, and our government, who is orchestrating this war on free people, they're certainly facilitating it, they're involved. So when you go vote on Super Tuesday, just remember what Julian Assange said. He was the one reading the emails back and forth within our government, and he was talking about Afghanistan, and he said, they don't want to win the war. They simply want a never-ending war so they can launder money. So do you think that they want the war between the right and the left in this country to end? Does that make any sense to you? If a guy that was reading cables from our government and our military tells you that what he read and what he came to understand, and by the way, they have this poor guy in solitary confinement for over a decade for letting the American people know what their government was doing. Do you really believe that they don't want to end the wars in Afghanistan? Now they got one going on in Ukraine. Now they're in the middle of Hamas and Israel. We had Iraq before that. They want continual war. Why would they want it any different inside of our borders? They want that political war going on between right and left. Raises a lot of money. Anger raises money for the Republicans. It raises money for the Democrats. So long as you got a boogeyman and an enemy, they win. As soon as you and I, the left and the right, the tall and the short, the fat and the skinny, the religious, the non-religious, the uneducated and the educated, once we begin to unite around a common core of principles, which is love and happiness, decency, respect, kindness, once that begins, then their house of cards falls apart. And listen, I'm a guy who doesn't mind at all getting in somebody's face. I can tell you a lot of stories about people getting underneath my skin, and it got a little ugly. I don't mind getting eyeball to eyeball with people. Doesn't bother me a bit. But that is not the way to conduct yourself when you're in a war where somebody is intentionally trying to get you to fight. I remember talking to my ex-wife, and I said, somebody was trying to get underneath her skin and trying to get her agitated. And I said, why would you allow somebody who you know in your heart is trying to hurt you, trying to agitate you, why would you continue down that path? Why would you allow that to happen? Once you recognize that that's what they are trying to do, distance yourself from them. Don't let it bother you. Don't talk to them. Don't think about it. Don't get involved with anybody that is purposefully trying to hurt you, trying to divide you from people you love, trying to scare you, trying to create anxiety in your life. Get away from them. But that's what our government is trying to do to us. That continues, doesn't seem to end. When we get back, we'll continue this conversation. I have several clips that I want to play for you. But we are going to go through the war on free people today. It's a new kind of war. Be aware of it. You cannot solve a problem until you understand that you have one. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
You sit around hoping, crying.
The Robb Carter Show, streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble.
Well, before you do anything rash,
Follow Robb Carter on Twitter @TheRobbCarter.
dig this. Everybody plays the fool sometimes.
I think we should be able to have a civil conversation.
The news and talk that matters to St. Louis.
This conversation has completely made me crazy.
This is complete insanity.
News Talk STL.
Missouri education officials must be bad poker players. They keep doubling down on the same bad bet. Public school students haven't been reading or doing math at their grade level for way too long. Last year, a horrifying 40% were regarded as not college or career ready after high school. Many states have adopted school choice. Iowa, Oklahoma, and Arkansas all provide money so families can choose the public or private school that works for them. And Kansas has one of the strongest public school choice programs in the nation. Nearly every family in Missouri is given exactly two choices for their children's education. They're assigned public school or learning online. That's it. Our neighbors trust their parents to choose the right school for their kids. Missouri doesn't. So enrollment is already shrinking. That will mean fewer high school graduates, college students, and workers. A bad bet indeed. Check out our 2024 blueprint, Moving Missouri Forward at ShowMeInstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Katie here, and I'd like to talk to you guys about Michael's Flooring Outlet. You could gain peace of mind with Michael's Flooring Outlet for your flooring and carpet installation needs. Their team of experts ensures that the job is done right the first time, providing you with attentive and a personalized service. Just like my parents, you can trust them to replace your old carpet with beautiful hardwood flooring. Visit one of their 3 locations in Dardenne Prairie, St. Peters, or Creve Coeur, or check them out at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
Missouri Wild Alchemy is a local and family-owned business dedicated to providing consumers with high-quality cannabis and education. They strive to make customers feel comfortable and to help curtail the stigma of cannabis use by having a professional and well-educated staff. They're proud to carry products from several Missouri cultivators and manufacturers. Missouri Wild Alchemy, now serving recreational customers 21 and above, as well as patients. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram, or visit MissouriWild.com. That's MissouriWild.com.
Hey, it's Tony Colombo from my friends at A+ Plumbing and Drain, and they truly are our friends because they have done it all at our house over the years, from putting in a new faucet to installing a whole new bathroom from scratch. The team at A+ has always done great work for a great price. A+ Plumbing and Drain is a local, family-owned business that can take care of all your plumbing needs and specializes in new construction and home renovation. Call A+ for your next project at 636-288-7126 or through Facebook at A+ Plumbing and Drain.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Are you being audited or investigated? Has the IRS sent you a letter demanding payment? You may not owe what they claim. Make this free call to the tax doctor now. Let them negotiate with the IRS on your behalf.
800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. That's 800-240-4586.
Subscribe and watch your favorite News Talk STL shows. Mike Ferguson in the Morning, The Vic Porcelli Show, Columbo and Katie, Jones and Arps. Webcam streaming on Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. Subscribe and watch News Talk STL. You're listening to The Robb Carter Show on News Talk STL.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Ethan. I saw the Eagles with my smoking hot wife and her family in Tampa. Fabulous show.
Are they still playing?
They're still playing.
All of them?
No. Glenn Fry died. But a great show. I think his son played. Can't remember exactly. There was a country guy that did some of the lead vocals too. I can't remember who it was, but a beautiful night. It was so beautiful out that night, and it was just Jimmy Buffett opened up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was nice. Tampa. I think it was Outdoor World Camp, something like that, stadium. Fabulous time. The Eagles. All right, let me get back into this. I'm giving up my Eagles concerts to work from 8 to 10 o'clock in St. Louis to bring this information to people. And if I don't get a statue of me put out in front of something soon, I'm going to be very disappointed in all this effort I'm putting forth, Ethan. Good Lord. Every night, every single night, I study for a test for 5 hours. I put this whole thing together. I'm not mailing this baby in. You know that. You see me. You see me when I come in. I'm studying for this thing like I'm in college again. This is crazy.
I wouldn't have it in me to do that.
I
burned out. When I was done with college, I cannot reproduce what I did back then.
You can ask my wife. When I wanted her, relentless. When I want something, I am absolutely relentless, and I want to make sure that people have some understanding of what's going on. For those people that just don't care, don't want to get involved with it, they're going to like I said, they're out in the ocean. They're just going to let the waves take them wherever it goes. That's fine. But I know that there are a lot of people out there looking for information, and they need somebody to just organize it for them because they're busy raising their families. They're busy trying to put food on the table, and they want somebody to organize this thing who doesn't have a dog. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. In fact, when I went to the caucuses, you had to be a Republican to get in. I went in as the media. I'm not rooting for anybody. I'm just rooting for honesty and fairness and decency in our government. I'm tired of the con jobs that go on, like the COVID con job. That one was the most ridiculously easy one to diagnose. It'll never stop bothering me. It'll never stop bothering me until it is in the school books as a con and it's laid out in essay form the way I do it. So everybody can understand that was a con. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a mistake that they put 2 masks on your face and made you stand on little dots. That was not a mistake. It wasn't a mistake that they shut down all the small businesses and kept the big corporations of it. That was not a mistake. It was not a mistake that they printed $2 trillion so that you could get through it and then inflation went through the roof and they blamed it on Biden. That wasn't a mistake. Trust me when I tell you it wasn't a mistake. It was planned and operated a long time in advance, and it worked exactly the way it was supposed to because they knew that even if you found out, as long as it took long enough, you wouldn't do jack, diddly, ding-dong. And that's exactly how it's playing out. I hope it changes, Ethan. I hope it changes. It's hard for people to get their mind around that their government is that evil, but they are. They're that evil. They're starting wars all over the world in your name, killing people all over the world, women, kids, dropping bombs on them, severing their legs and ripping their heads off in your name. And you would think that a decent society at some point would go, you know what? I don't want to be a part of that anymore. I'm going to change out my government. I'm going to get my elections under control so these scumbags that run our society are out of there. But I digress. Let me get back onto the war on free people. I left off with flooding the borders. What does flooding the borders do? Flooding the borders allows criminal gangs from around the world to organize inside your borders and get your kids hooked on fentanyl, heroin, marijuana, cocaine, you name it. That's what they're here for. And do you think that's going to be better for society? Oregon, they just rescinded their all drugs are legal deal because they saw what it did to their society. And I challenge anybody that travels this country on business, or if they're lucky enough to travel it just for fun, go into the inner cities and check out what's happening. Check out Los Angeles. Check out San Francisco. Check out parts of New York and Manhattan. Check out downtown Austin in Texas. Check it out and see what you think. Is that where we're going to go? Is that where you want society headed? As we spend billions of dollars overseas to fight wars that nobody in this country wants to fight? I'll leave that in your hands. You figure out what you want to do with it. Figure out whether you want a real election. If you think these voting machines are hunky-dory and everything's going to be just fine, it won't affect you, it'll be the other guy, I got a call, or a text, I should say, from a good friend of mine up in Boston today. And he said when he voted, it was on the Dominion voting machines, and as soon as he saw it, he wanted to make him puke. I think he doesn't trust the voting machines. Nor do I trust the voting machines. Nor does anybody trust the voting machines. They pervert science. I have a clip from Carl Sagan where he talks about in the future, this was back, 20 years ago, where he says the beauty of science and technology is 99.9% of the people, they don't understand it. So it's nice and easy to run a con on people when the instrument used to con them, they don't understand. They don't have any idea what's going on with science and technology.
I think I know the clip you're talking about. Carl Sagan is one of the only guys who I've heard really explain the difference between science as a process of coming to know things and science as, on the other hand, science just as what we call the domain of things that you learn from that, right? So science is like a scientific method on the one hand, and on the other hand, science is just the word that we use to say like the stars and protons and neutrons. They're very different things, right? The way you come to know it is a process.
Right.
You should trust
the scientific
the process.
method.
Yeah, you should trust that. When people say trust the science, you should trust that.
Well, you trust certain sciences that are absolute, but there are sciences that are not absolute. We don't know if there's climate change going on. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. They can make up whatever. Once you start manipulating the data, you never know.
Exactly. So when I listen to somebody else tell me that COVID is like this or the climate is like this, that is not me doing science.
That's
and
right.
that is my problem with people who say
You're
trust
not trusting the science.
You're just trusting
the
what you're
scientists.
Exactly. Which could be paid off.
Yeah, they, of course,
or
they're paid off.
manipulated or whatever.
Well, it's a very easy con, Ethan. Just think about it in these terms. If the government wants to sell climate change, do they want to sell climate change? You have two people that ran for president, John Kerry and Al Gore, two obvious frauds with long histories in politics and big money, right? That's who they are. They are pushing climate change. Why in the world would two former presidential candidates who lost have any idea what's going on in science? They don't have degrees in science. It's a con job. They are the front man for it because they have their parties behind them. And what they do is they make money. They spend money in the colleges to get the result that they want. And if those colleges don't give them the result they want, then they don't get any more grant money. If they don't get any more grant money, then the game ends. If you're making your money by telling people that the world is melting, and the only way you're going to make any money is to confirm that the world is melting, then you can manipulate the data any way you want to get people to believe the world is melting. And then you got these soft-minded kids going off to college, and they got their professors up there who they look up to, think they know something, and they go, my scientist said that my professor said that it's real, and here's all the information behind it. That's what I say to that. Absolutely 110% BS. Has been BS from day one. When I was a kid, the world was freezing. The world's been here for what? I mean, millions of years, we think? I don't think anybody knows that either. They just make it up. So we don't know how long, but let's say it's millions of years. In the 70s, less than 50 years ago, they were running TV commercials and ads saying the world was getting ready to freeze. Then they said there was a hole in the ozone layer that they magically fixed because of these fabulous scientists. Then we had global warming. Now we got climate change. I don't even know what it'll be the next 20 years. But these people are con artists. Con artists, just like COVID, the con job. They pervert science. COVID con job, climate con job. They bribe the states. So we have a federal system with the 10th Amendment. So we have the states are supposed to be able to do their thing, but then the states get hooked on the federal money, like a drug dealer. Just like a drug dealer. You get the first hit for free. Yeah. You like that? You like that money? We got more for you, but stay on the game plan. Stay on the right path, and the feds will give you some more cash. I'd like to know what the budget in Missouri is. I'd like to know how much money comes from the feds and how much we raise. Be interesting to find that out. And then, the number one thing that they do, the key to it all, the reason it works so beautifully, is they subvert elections. That's how it all works. You can't vote your way out of this. Don't think that you can. I'm just telling you. Go out and vote. I'm going to go vote. When it's time to vote, I'll vote just because of the symbolism of it all. But if you think that we're changing out the government pieces in this game by voting, I just think you're outside the bounds of your mind. The CIA has ran our government all the way back from the Reagan years. You have a government right now that won't tell you who killed a sitting president in broad daylight. They won't even tell you. I mean, what would it take to convince you that the intelligence agencies run the show? And they put positions of power, they put people in positions of power that make it work for them. They have unlimited money to organize a system to create scenarios that the government has to print money to come fix. It's that simple. It's not that complicated. All right, I want to get into the first clip of the day because it applies to the First Amendment. So the First Amendment, freedom of speech, right to organize religion. This is the First Amendment. So as the founders of this country, who are looking for a government that was responsive to the people, power lies in the hands of the citizens, not in the government. Do you feel that way anymore? I wonder if the January 6th protesters who were exercising their free right because the sitting president at that time, Donald John Trump, said, come to D.C., it's going to be wild. I'm going to walk down to the Capitol building with you. Do you think that those people that were walking around and happened to come on the opposite side of the Capitol and get waved in by whoever was running the show there, went inside waving their flags and had their Make America Great hats on and taking selfies with their friends, now sit in solitary confinement? Do you think those people were a threat to anything? Do you think that Stephen Baker from The Blaze was a threat to anybody when he went into the Capitol building? Do you think it unusual? Do you think it odd at all that the government will not release all of the videotape inside the Capitol building, and it's been 3 years to prove that people were dangerous, to prove that people were violent? It's been 3 years. And they got a camera in every square inch of the Capitol building. Nobody cares. And when nobody cares, it continues to happen. That's where we're at. This is a compilation that I want you to hear, and I just want to name them first. Starts off with Bob Woodward. We've talked about him many times. He's a Yale guy. But apparently he was contacted by an official high up in the Obama administration to zip it when he was reporting on something. You have James Rosen from Fox News, who had all during the Obama administration, where his emails and his phone calls were being monitored illegally, unconstitutionally. James Rosen, reporter for Fox News. You have Catherine Herridge, who just had all of her stuff confiscated by CBS News. She's also from Harvard. But as she gets fired from CBS, the station keeps all of her information. Apparently they've given it back to her now, but I assume they've had time to check it out, don't you think? You've got Lara Logan. Lara Logan was up in front of Congress just the other day saying there's more than one way to kill a journalist. And she meant that exactly as she said it. There's more than one way to kill a journalist. You can silence them, and then you can silence them. 2 ways to kill a journalist. That's Lara Logan. Then you have Julian Assange. Julian Assange, who was given information by somebody within our military that he published that brought light to all of the crimes that our own government were in the midst of throughout the world. Email transmissions, all of the information right there, could read through all of it. And when he published it, he became enemy number one by the Trump administration. And Mike Pompeo. Hillary Clinton said we should try to drone him, and Mike Pompeo said to assassinate him or pick him up. That's our government, as corrupt as they can possibly be, starting wars all over the world. It becomes public, and the guy that made the information public sits in solitary confinement, and this country's trying to extradite him back in here so they can put him in prison or hang him. Take your pick. This is intimidation of the press. This is a restriction of free speech. They're trying to destroy independent journalists, and they're trying to destroy corporate journalists who get off the path. Check this out.
Share with our viewers what's going on between you and the White House.
Well, they're not happy at all, and some people kind of, said, look, we don't see eye to eye on this. They never really said, though, afterwards they've said that this is factually wrong, and it was said to me in an email by a top.
What was said? Yeah.
It was said very clearly. You will regret doing this.
Who sent that email?
Well, I'm not going to say.
Was it a senior person at the White House?
A very senior person. Makes me very uncomfortable to have the White House telling reporters you're going to regret doing something that you believe in.
The Obama administration is facing yet another scandal this morning. The Associated Press says the Justice Department secretly gathered phone records from its reporters and its editors.
Now, the AP says the government came in and scooped up phone records for 20 of its phone lines used by reporters and editors. Prosecutors were told also seized cell phone records of several AP employees. So the AP says there was no warning, no negotiations. The government just simply came in, got the subpoenas, took the phone logs, and then notified the AP after the fact. And the AP calls this a, quote, massive and unprecedented intrusion.
It's being called an unprecedented government intrusion. The Justice Department secretly collected 2 months of telephone records from the Associated Press and its reporters. Associated Press CEO Gary Pruitt says, quote, these records potentially reveal communications with confidential sources across all of the news gathering activities undertaken by the AP.
We're in a war. There is a war being waged against free people. And the gem, what they want more than anything else, is to restrict your rights, water down your Constitution right here in America. Because once this country falls, once we willingly give up our constitutional rights given to us by God, not from the government itself, as it states in the Declaration of Independence. Once we fall, it's over. As Ronald Reagan and many others have said, there's nowhere to run once America goes down. You have an obligation to keep the world at peace. People must wake up to the fact they must get out of this haze that they are in, understand what is actually happening. And you can do it as a happy warrior. You don't have to walk around with your head down. You should be excited for the competition. Your government, the ones that you trust, are subverting elections. They are controlling the media. They are suppressing free speech. They want to take your guns. They're buying off the states. They're at war with you. Your borders are open. Your kids are on drugs. Mom and dad are taking anxiety medicines to get through the day. Inflation is squeezing us out of our money and our income and our wealth. There is a war being waged against you. Rise and shine. Let's get after it. Don't go anywhere. We're going to continue on with the story. We'll be right back.
The Robb Carter Show, streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Follow Robb Carter on Twitter @TheRobbCarter. This is News Talk STL. Even we don't know what he's going to do next.
My name is ivermectin hydroxychloroquine. Hi, Ken. How are you?
Vic Porcelli.
Good morning, trucker. I'm monoclonal antibodies. Yes.
Live and local, weekday mornings at 9.
We call him Mo.
On News Talk STL.
Hey, it's Tony Colombo for the cleaning pros at Zero Res. It's time for spring cleaning, and there's no one that can help you with that more than the team at Zero Res, especially with this great offer. Book a cleaning in March, mention the Colombo special, and you'll get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned starting at just $119. Plus, you can take $50 off your air duct cleaning and 20% off your upholstery, which is a service we've used many times. Just mention the Colombo special when you call 314-474-2020 or book online at ZeroResSTL.com.
Hey, everybody, it's Robb Carter. Did you know that every day 10,000 baby boomers turn 65 and need help deciphering their Medicare options? I want to tell you about my lifelong friend, Pamela Berry, Pilgrim Pammy. She has over 2 decades of experience dealing with Medicare insurance. She's an expert specializing in business owners, but she can assist you too. She'll help you navigate and uncomplicate Medicare. With nearly 70 plan options, special enrollments may be available. Call Pilgrim Pammy at 314-659-9841.
Throughout these chilly Midwestern months, where are you going to go for some hometown goodness? That would be Espino's Mexican Grill. Espino's Mexican Grill located in 17409 Chesterfield Airport Road. Serving up ooey gooey Mexican authentic goodness every single day of the week. I've been going to Espino's for years. They got the Taco Tuesdays. They got the awesome menu. They got the coldest drinks in town. And it is the fresh alternative to your typical Mexican fare. That's Espino's Mexican Grill, Espino'sMexicanBarGrill.com. Go to Espino's today, 17409 Chesterfield Airport Road. We'll see you there.
Hey, Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros. When Christine and I bought our new house, we knew the gutters were an issue, and after meeting the Gutter Pros team, we knew that they were right for us. Gutter Pros is your all-in-one gutter service team that offers a variety of affordable solutions, and they even offer free estimates, so there's no cost to you to find out if they are right for your home, just like they were for ours. If you're having a problem with your gutters, contact the Gutter Pros now, because with Gutter Pros, water goes where they tell it to. Call them at 314-656-7195 or visit gutterpros.com.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
The Robb Carter Show on News Talk STL.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I love the Eagles. I think it's because I was raised and the Eagles had so many songs that were catchy that you knew the words to all of them by the time you were 15 years old. I do dig the Eagles. Not everybody loves them, but I love them. I can't help it. Yeah. My wife, fact-checking me. She says it was Orlando Camping World. I said Tampa. Tampa, Orlando, what's the difference? They're 2 hours away from each other. Tomato, tomato is the way I look at it. Close enough. I'll be home soon, baby. I'm glad you're listening. Girl works 14-hour days and gets home and has to listen to me. Can you imagine? She's torturing herself. Foot rub coming, though. That's what my wife does. She gets home from work, and when she gets all settled in, she just takes her feet and flops them on my lap. That means that's her sign for foot rub. She doesn't ask anymore. That's the universal sign for foot rub. And you got one coming. All right, let me get back into my rant. I didn't want to rant today. I was going to talk about the war on free peoples of the world, but I do get a little worked up. I just think it's so obvious that it's right before us, and it's getting more and more dangerous by the day. As I say always, we're driving off the cliff on a beautiful sunshiny day. Everybody's saying, hey, listen, you're getting ready to go off the cliff. And as you get closer and closer, people continue to yell. And you're just waving back at them going, I'm going off the cliff. Don't worry about me. I'm going to be just fine. Wake up. Rise and shine. Let's get it together. Let's have some fun in the process. We do have constitutional rights. We do have lots and lots of good people sprinkled about our government, even politicians. There's lots of good ones in there. But there's a lot of bad ones. And the bad ones, unfortunately, are in positions of power. And the good ones don't seem to have the cojones to let the bad ones know that we're onto it. We know what's going down. We understand that electronic voting machines do not have the confidence of the very people you say that you represent. It's that simple. If you represent us here in Missouri, Mr. Ashcroft and Governor Parson, if you represent us, we don't want electronic voting machines. We don't care if they work or not. We don't trust them. Both sides of the aisle have said they are easy to manipulate, so get rid of them. ASAP. ASAP. Now I want to get into this. I was at church this Sunday, Ethan. And our church likes to keep people up to date on exactly what we're talking about. They put it in biblical terms because we are in a spiritual war. If you are somebody who believes in organized religion, if you are somebody who sees the attack on Christianity for what it is, and you understand the reason there is an attack on Christianity, then you have to explain it to people. You don't have to be a Christian to understand that if you don't get your rights from above, that means that organized politicians and institutions determine your rights. The Constitution clearly states, let me play the clip first. Let me find this clip, because then I'll read to you the Declaration of Independence so we're all on the same page. But I want to get this clip. This woman was on MSNBC. Her name is Heidi Price-Bila, I think is the way it's pronounced. I don't know. But she was on, and she wants to make sure that you know. Let me get her set up here. Here she comes. It's never easy to get what I want, Ethan. You know what I mean? It's just never easy.
Because there's many different groups orbiting Trump.
Here she goes. Now pay attention to what she's talking. She's talking about Christian nationalism. She says that's different than Christianity, but pay very close attention to the propaganda that she's spilling out to her audience, because this is the message they want you to take away from it. The message is Christians are crazy. You don't get your rights from God. You get them from D.C., you get them from Washington, D.C., and if you don't like that, then you are a racist, a sexist, a conspiracy theorist, a rotten, terrible human being. A Christian nationalist is the way she describes it. Check this out.
The one thing that unites all of them, because there's many different groups orbiting Trump, but the thing that unites them as Christian nationalists, not Christians, by the way, because Christian nationalists is very different, is that they believe that our rights as Americans, as all human beings, don't come from any earthly authority. They don't come from Congress. They don't come from the Supreme Court. They come from God. The one thing that unites all of them, because there's many different groups.
It's just the way this is working on this system. She makes the commentary that Christian nationalists aren't like normal Christians. These are different people. These people believe that they get their constitutional rights from God, and she points up. Well, that is where we get them from. That's the way our Constitution is laid out. I want to read it for Heidi because she didn't seem to get the message on how this country is set up and how it is devised. Let me read it to Heidi from MSNBC. That organization is something else, by the way, MSNBC. Can you believe that people watch MSNBC? I mean, you have to be outside of your mind to watch MSNBC for even a minute. I mean, unless you're doing it for fun. They've got that, who's that one woman that's on there? I'll think of her name here in just a minute. We got Rachel Maddow. She's one of them. But they're all crazy, every single one of them. It says, this is the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure, that's the word you got to pay attention to, that to secure these rights, governments instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government. Do you believe that your government in D.C. is working on your behalf? Does anybody out there actually believe that? I wonder what the percentage of people that watch what's going on in D.C., watch how they print money and send it all over the world, watch how they leave our borders wide open, watch how they conduct business in D.C. I wonder if they think that is the consent of the governed. And the only way they can convince you that it is the consent of the governed is to subvert elections. That's it. It's the only way they can do it. They have to convince you that this is what you voted for. You voted for your inner cities to be littered with trash and drug addiction. That was what you guys did. You guys voted for the schools to teach your kids about sexuality at age 6 years old. You voted to make sure that kids could have transgender surgery without their parents even knowing in a couple of states. That's what you voted for. You voted to send trillions of dollars around the United States for the COVID con job and drive up inflation and squeeze the middle class. That's what you voted for. That's what you wanted. You wanted the war in Ukraine. You wanted to send your money over to Israel and Hamas to fight that war. You wanted the war in Iraq. You wanted the war in Afghanistan. That's what you voted for. They're working on your behalf, don't you know? It's insane. It is. I'm starting to wonder if this government actually believes that we're going to put up with this forever. Or do they think that there's a finite amount of time they're going to get this baby? There's the 2030 agenda. And I wonder if they're just trying to tape this thing together until the technology gets so advanced that we're just kind of locked into a system we can't get out of. Because one of the things that I didn't bring up, and I don't know why, I just skipped it, was the destruction of our currency. If they destroy the currency, if they destroy the dollar, how's that going to work out for you guys out there? How's it going to work when you wake up and your dollar is not worth really anything? How's it going to play out? Do you think the government comes in with a central bank digital currency solution? Do you have that feeling? You know who's talking about that is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is out there saying if you want to control your destiny, you might want to look at Bitcoin. You're going to need a reliable currency. And the way they are printing money and sending it all over the world and they're $34 trillion in debt, I don't know that your currency is all that reliable, considering that a large portion of the people on this planet want to get off of the dollar. So if you can't buy with this global supply chain, if you can no longer buy things with that fiat currency, what happens? Is that so far off in the future that we don't even need to think about it? Is that impossible in your mind? Because Americans get a little bit comfortable with the system that they're in. They don't recognize that civilizations all over the world and civilizations through time have collapsed. And they collapsed because of mismanagement within their own government. Thieves, con artists. And you can see them all over our government. They're not hard to find. Just like Kerry Mullis said when I played the COVID con job, he said, Anthony Fauci, this is 20 years before COVID ever happened. Anthony Fauci can look right into that camera, just like I am right now on rumble.com. You can watch it live every night from 8 to 10. He would look right in that camera, Anthony Fauci, and lie straight to your face. And that's exactly what he did. Don't go anywhere. We'll continue the war on free peoples when we get back.
If you're considering an annuity as part of your retirement plan, we need to talk. Hi, I'm Bob Stockdale, Senior Vice President Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money Saturday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL 1019. Annuities can be a useful tool for some retirement investors, but not all annuities are created equal. Every week, we meet clients who own complex annuities that don't suit their needs and, in some cases, actively undermine their retirement plan. Before you purchase an annuity, get a second opinion from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Requesting a consultation is free of charge. To request a free consultation, contact us at clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member NYSE and SIPC.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
The Nevada primary election was yesterday, and you may say, what? I didn't know that. Well, it's because nobody cared. Nobody cared. And so the Republican Party in Nevada said, we're not participating in the primary. We're going to do a caucus, which is coming up on Thursday. It's possible that Nikki Haley won't get a single delegate in that particular caucus.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
As well.
It just boggles the mind, though, how you get beat up shadowboxing. You know what I mean?
Mike Ferguson in the morning. Live and local, weekday mornings at 5:30 on News Talk STL.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go. And pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. That's 800-515-2397.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Greg Clugston in Washington. No Super Tuesday surprises so far. President Joe Biden and Donald Trump are sweeping the coast-to-coast contest tonight. They're likely heading toward a November rematch. The two men have each won Texas, Alabama, Maine, Oklahoma, Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Arkansas, Massachusetts, and Minnesota. Tonight's results are sure to increase pressure on Trump's last major rival, Nikki Haley, to leave the Republican race. Haley is watching the results privately with her staff in the Charleston, South Carolina area tonight. She has not scheduled any campaign events yet going forward. Haley has said she would remain in the contest through at least Super Tuesday. I'm Greg Clugston in Washington. Now with more news, here's Keith Peters.
Voters craving more transparency after the last election cycle can watch their ballots via camera as they move behind closed doors in several counties nationwide. Lisa Dwyer explains.
Hilda Salinas is the election administrator in Texas's Hidalgo County, on the border with Mexico. She says voters can see staff with the central counting staff tabulating and circulating votes online. Texas's video surveillance is part of a 2021 state law. There are also other counties nationwide that also stream their balloting process, including Cuyahoga County in Ohio, Maricopa County in Arizona, and King County in Washington. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Attorneys for Meta and founder Mark Zuckerberg are seeking dismissal of shareholder lawsuits alleging the company has deliberately failed to protect users of its social media platforms from human trafficking and child sexual exploitation. The lawsuit was filed last year by several investment funds. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 404 points. The Nasdaq dropped 267. The S&P lower by 52. More at townhall.com.
If you haven't switched to MetaShare yet, two big reasons to at least consider it and why it makes so much sense right now. Number one is inflation, which is just affecting everything. It just makes sense to say, okay, where can I actually save? Well, you can save a lot in one fell swoop if you switch to MetaShare. The typical family saves $500 a month. Secondly, your conscience. MetaShare members aren't forced to pay for things they don't support or believe in, and that's a big deal for a lot of people right now. They want their money to actually help people. And one more reason, you can trust MetaShare. It's been the gold standard for healthcare sharing for more than 30 years. It works, and members love it, too. It has double the member satisfaction rating compared to health insurance. So now's a great time to consider making the switch, and they are very easy to talk to. MetaShare has great customer service. You can call now and get a price within 2 minutes. Here's the number. It's 844-41-BIBLE. That's 844-41-BIBLE, 844-41-BIBLE.
Many happy returns.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert meteorologist Kristen Cornett with your forecast. Mostly cloudy with a low of 44 overnight. Wednesday, mostly cloudy and dry. A little warmer than today, a high of 60. Mostly cloudy down to 45 Wednesday night. And then for Thursday, it's going to be a cloudy day. Look for a 40% chance of rain moving in during the afternoon hours. The high, 63 degrees. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Kristen Cornett.
The Robb Carter Show on News Talk STL.
All right, everybody. Hour number 2. It is 9:04 on this fabulous Tuesday evening. I'm doing my best to get as much information as I can out to the public about the war on free people that is being waged. It's being waged from within your own government, from many of your trusted institutions. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., as far as the institutions are concerned, he calls it agency capture, meaning the corporations and the regulatory body have become one, and then it becomes a money-making operation regardless of whether it's in your best interest. Did we see that during COVID? Did we all see that? Was I the only one that started to recognize that was going on? I think we all saw it. I think you noticed. Let me get back into these stories that I want to tell you about how this is all beginning to operate. They want to restrict your free speech. That's number one. All of us independent journalists throughout COVID and the 2020 election, if we were outside of the mainstream narrative, we now know that the Federal Bureau of Investigations were restricting speech from everyday citizens against the Constitution. Nobody said a word. They're all just fine. They make up some excuse. Everything's okay. They were the ones lying. We were the ones telling the truth. We were shut down, and Anthony Fauci got a medal from the Trump administration. Just so you remember. I don't want you to forget. Don't forget. They want to restrict your gun ownership. Donald Trump said red flag laws. He's all for them. Means that your neighbor could call and say, hey, you know what? Ethan's acting just a little bit erratic. I don't know what's going on with Ethan, but he's acting a little strange. And then the cops can come over, confiscate his guns, and then he can't get them back until he goes through due process. This is what Donald Trump said, our hero, who's protecting your Second Amendment rights. This is what he said, just so you understand. They want to indoctrinate your kids. They want to put a wedge between good parents and their kids. And they're doing it. You know what I'm talking about, their parents. You know, especially if you got kids in high school. It's always been difficult because that's a difficult age for teenagers. But they are trying actively to drive a wedge between parents and their children. They, meaning the establishment, they want to control the narrative. Operation Mockingbird, CIA, all discovered in the early 70s. They're taking over the publications. They take over the media. They control the narrative. You've all seen the video out there on YouTube where they have every single, whether it's Fox or what have you, and they all have the exact same entrance. Same exact words, the same exact phraseology across the entire country on your local news. They're just reading script from the corporations. They want to destroy your health. Does it look like your government's trying to make you healthy? Look at your cost of good food, meat, dairy, vegetables. It's through the roof. It's through the roof. To eat well in this country, you got to be rich to eat well. They want to destroy the family. That's why they shut down churches during COVID and kept Walmart open. They want to destroy your family. They want you isolated. They want you divorced. They want you anxious, and they want you paying so that you have no money. The more dependent you are on the government, the better off they are. Just like a drug dealer. Just like a drug dealer. And they'll convince you that if you hand over all of your wealth, if you hand over everything to the federal government, they're going to spend it wisely. That's why they're $34 trillion in debt, and we have wars all over the world, and they're shoving needles in your arm so that you can work and travel. That's how good they are. They're excellent. Give them all your money. I think that's what we should do, Ethan. I think we should just hand over all of our money to the federal government, and if they want to give any of it back to us, we just consider it lucky because they know what to do with it. You know, if they want to take 40, 50, 55% of my money, take it. You guys are doing great with it. They want to flood the borders. They want to make sure that there is no culture and there is no tradition in this country. They flood people into this country that have bad intentions, that do not want to assimilate to the American culture. And now they begin to retard the American culture. Now it's all about do whatever you want. Everything's everything's being sexualized. Drugs are being, they sell drugs to our kids. Look at Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg was selling an entire generation to go get high. I remember his office contacted ours when I was out in L.A., and they wanted us to make a shoe for him, which we did make the shoe for him. But the owner of the company that I work for, with Snoop Dogg, Snoop Doggy Dogg, we got that song somewhere, with Snoop Dogg wanting to wear our shoes in his videos, and the owner of my company said, I don't want to be involved in that. Don't want the reputation. Don't need it. And I went, what? We don't want Snoop Dogg? And he said, no, I got young girls or young kids, and I don't want him to be, I don't want to be involved with them. I thought, man, that's what happens when you got a lot of money. You don't have to play the game, and he wasn't going to play it. But that's my Snoop Dogg story. They want to pervert science. They want science to be your new God. They want you to think of science as God because they know you don't know any better. And if science can control the way you perceive situations and they can tell you that the science is exact and you don't know any different and they beat that through propaganda, all of a sudden you fall into climate change hoaxes and COVID con job hoaxes. I played that on the COVID con job, how many times they say, you got to trust the science. How many times did you hear out there, trust the science? Trust the science, trust the science, trust the science. Over and over and over again. It was nauseating. And every time they said it, I would get chest pains because I just couldn't take it. My anxiety went through the roof when I knew they were lying through their teeth, looking in that camera, looking you dead in the eye, and lying straight to your face. They want to bribe the states and get the states hooked on federal money because they can print it. They can send it down to the states. They can get those governors and all those people within the states to look like heroes because they're bringing home that fiat currency, bringing home the bacon. And that's how they do it. They want to destroy your currency. They want to control inflation and interest rates. And then the final straw is they want to subvert elections. That's the system. That's what's going on in this country right now as we speak. That's what's happening. It is a war on free people. It is to demoralize you. It is to distort information. And it's happening. It is happening. Let me get into this clip right here. This is Tommy Tuberville. This was at CPAC, and it's only interesting in the sense that he understands what's happening because he's not one of the club members, They are constantly trying to pound away at this guy. I don't know whether he's good, bad, or indifferent, but I know he's not a club member. He was a football coach. He was elected to the Senate, and now he is trying to explain to people that the left, as he describes it, they're coming for you. And he doesn't say it as though they're coming for you because they want to work around the fringes. He means they are coming for you. And by coming for you, he means they want to strip you of your freedoms. Check it out.
A test for all of us in here. It's going to be a huge test. They're coming after you. They're going to come after you. They're going to look. They're going to vilify you. You're going to see everything in the world said about Donald Trump or your local conservative politician. We got to stand strong. This is going to be the toughest thing in the world that you're going to see. They are going to come after you. They're going to come after your churches, your anything to do with any kind of discipline, your law enforcement. It's going to be a tough time because they can't give up. They know a lot of these people are going to go to jail when Donald Trump gets elected. And
I don't buy any of that myself. I don't think anybody's going to jail. Donald Trump told us he was going to put Hillary Clinton in jail, and then he was toasting her 2 weeks later. So I don't think that's going to happen. And again, I'm not so sure that's the way to go. I'm not so sure that putting political opponents in jail is the way to go. I'm simply saying there has to be some accountability. Once you recognize what these people have done, once you recognize the horrific things they've done to the American people, then they have to be at least put out of public office forever. And everybody associated with them. We really do need some form of a new system. We just need the Constitution to be upheld by the people we send off to represent us. That's what has to happen. Now, when I say they're trying to take away your Second Amendment rights, we talked about this most recent tweet from Joe, Smoking Joe, not Creepy Joe. I like Creepy Joe better. I do like Creepy Joe better, but Smoking Joe's fine because it's kind of sarcasm, right? Smoking Joe, like Smoking Joe Frazier, the fighter, Smoking Joe Biden, not the fighter. He says, whether the NRA likes it or not, I am determined to ban assault weapons. I did it once before, and I'll do it again. President Joe Biden. This was out there on Twitter. Then we got Donald Trump saying that he is in favor of red flag laws. You can make, if you want to twist your mind into giving government power, you can make any excuse for anything. That's the beauty of it. If you believe the government is benevolent, then yeah, red flag laws make sense. If you think the government is completely and totally out of control and suppressing your freedoms, then you don't want to give them any more power because you don't know what they're going to do with the power. If the guys that you love get the power or the ladies that you love get the power, then maybe everything's great. But we have no idea who's going to have that power. When we wanted Donald Trump to secure that border, we thought he was going to actually do something fundamental to change the border. I got into a little bit of a tiff with local personality Kevin Slayton because I said Donald Trump didn't do anything that was that fundamentally changed where we were heading. And I would look around right now. Am I right or wrong? Did he fundamentally change the direction of this country when he was in office for 4 years? Are the borders wide open? Are kids still dying from fentanyl? Is inflation through the roof? Is the middle class suffering? Are small businesses in trouble? Yes or no? Because if it's executive order and it's not through legislation because we couldn't get enough, if he couldn't inspire the citizens to put enough pressure on their representatives to get things done, then it didn't work. A great leader will inspire the citizens to put so much overwhelming pressure on their representatives that they get things done. And that means you got to appeal to both sides. That means you have to go into places that you don't want to go and hug and kiss babies and make sure that they understand whether they're Democrat or Republican. They're Americans first, and you got their back. That's not how it went down, just so you understand. Let me get into Hillary Clinton, because Hillary Clinton wants the Australian model. And if anybody knows what the Australian model is, it is gun confiscation. And she has been talking about the Australian model, and so have the Democrats for quite some time now. So let me get this going here. This is, I always play it first, just to give you a little warm-up, and then we'll play the whole thing. So here is Hillary Clinton talking about the Australian model. Now, she was the leader of the Democrat Party. She's no different than Joe Biden. She's no different than any of these Democrats. They want those guns. At some point, they're coming for these guns. I don't know when it is. We always talk about it. They chip away at it. But I think the ultimate goal is to get rid of assault weapons, institute red flag laws, and then have a nationwide registration. Because so long as they know who has the guns, then when they want to come get them, they just need a reason. They just need a reason to come get them. And if they think you're dangerous, like they did with the January 6th people, they just come get them. Check out. Here's Hillary Clinton, and the guy after this is somebody within the Australian government explaining what happened when they used the Australian model. This is how it all went down. This is gun confiscation. This is the Second Amendment for a reason. You got number one, so you can communicate with your countrymen. And number two, so you can protect your home, your family, your property. That's why we have the Second Amendment. If the government gets too intrusive, you have a standing army to say no more.
The Australian government, as part of trying to clamp down on the availability of automatic weapons, offered a good price for buying hundreds of thousands of guns, and then they basically clamped down going forward. I think it would be worth considering doing it on the national level if that could be arranged.
If we're modelled as what would be a success story, then I'm really not sure what they mean by success. So it's really achieved absolutely nothing for a whole lot of money. It was $500 million to confiscate all these firearms from law-abiding people, and really it's been $500,000 just washed down the toilet. The only option you had was to hand in your guns or go to jail. It is confiscation. Well, my advice would be to give nothing. What the people that want your guns call sensible gun laws are not sensible gun laws. Sensible gun laws are ones that punish criminals. So by coming after the people that aren't the problem, all they're doing is demonstrating that it's not about public safety, it's about their ideology. So really, everyone that wants to own a firearm, whether it's for self-defense, for sporting purposes, or because they want to, really needs to think long and hard about what's coming up and actually get off their butt, register to vote, and punish those that want to take your guns away from you for doing nothing wrong. Punish them in the ballot box.
Wouldn't that be nice if you could punish everybody in the ballot box? You can punish some. I'm sure there's elections out there that are legit. But wouldn't you like to know that they were all legit? Wouldn't that be nice? Because when they're talking about taking guns away, you can make this argument to anybody, and I'd love to see how they answer it. If you're going to confiscate guns, aren't the only people that are going to comply with your desire to take their guns away are law-abiding citizens? Do you think the drug cartels down in Mexico, you go, you know what? We got to give these guns up. The Mexican government says we can't have guns. We're going to give these guns up. Do you think the Mexican drug cartels are saying that? No, they're not saying that. They're saying you guys are dopey because now we have all the guns and the citizens are helpless. So we'll do what we want to do. We'll build an army big enough to take on the government if we need to because we don't care about your laws. The only people that will comply with gun laws are law-abiding citizens. And if you're going to leave our borders wide open like they are right now, then you invite drug cartels into a society that is helpless. You got Dick Durbin. Look up Dick Durbin. I think he's a club member. He's probably Georgetown or Columbia. I don't think he's a Harvard guy. Dick Durbin, senator from Illinois, scumbag. Total and complete 100% scumbag. Dick Durbin. They named him properly.
Georgetown
guy. He went out onto the Senate floor recently and said, look, we had to get rid of thousands of military members because they didn't want to get a vaccine for something they didn't need. So we had to purge the military with people with a brain, right? That's what they had to do. The people that said, you know what? I'm not doing it. I'm not taking your medications because I don't believe that I need them. They got rid of all those people. And I don't mean to say that the people that took the vaccines, I shouldn't have said that. That came off wrong. I'm not saying the people in the military that took the vaccines don't have a brain. I'm just saying the ones that were really thinking through the implications of taking a vaccine for something they didn't need from this particular government, those people were sharp and committed. And they said, no, I don't want it. So they purge all of those people. Now, Dick Durbin says all of these illegal immigrants that have flooded our border, well, they should sign up for the military. So I want you to think about this. If the Democrats get what they want, which would be what Hillary Clinton said, gun confiscation from law-abiding citizens, then you have another prominent Democrat by the name of Dick Durbin who says, you know what? We are going to give military weapons to military members that we are trying to get to sign up that are not from this country. So you have illegal immigrants with weapons of war, and the citizens who grew up in this country, American citizens, they want to take those guns away. That's the logic if you follow what's going on with the Democrats. Make that make sense for me, if you would. Don't go anywhere. When we get back, I want to play Paul Harvey. You've heard it a million times, but I want to apply it to this particular conversation. Paul Harvey when we get back.
The Robb Carter Show, streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. This is News Talk STL.
I think we should there's a lot of more conversation.
The news and talk that matters to St. Louis.
This conversation has completely made me crazy.
This is complete insanity.
News Talk STL.
Tony Colombo here for Cadre Asset Management. A cadre is defined as a small group of people specially trained for a particular purpose or profession, and that is the role that Cadre Asset Management can play in your financial journey. Learn more about how they can help secure your financial future by following Cadre Asset Management on Facebook, or just go to cadreassetmgmt.com.
Cadre Asset Management is a Missouri-based independent advisory firm licensed under and securities and investment advisory services offered through Founders Financial Securities, LLC, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
Tim Jones here with Dr. Kim Patton from Comprehensive Integrative Healthcare. Kim, you focus on the treating of neuropathy. What are the signs of neuropathy?
The most common symptoms are numbness, burning, cramping, usually in the hands and feet.
Tell me about the success you're having with your Restore Neuropathy treatment program.
Tim, our program includes 8 distinct steps, offering a unique experience from other treatments. No surgery, no addictive medications, and we are seeing a success rate of 95%.
Kim, that is incredible. How can people learn more?
Visit us online at CIH.health. That's CIH.health.
Hey News Talk STL family, this is Marissa Jones with Jones Air and Water. I am so excited to announce our newest addition to our services, nutrition and wellness coaching. If you are looking to lose weight, increase energy, get rid of those headaches, balance your hormones, or simply find a healthy balance in your lifestyle, give me a call today. Mention News Talk STL and receive 10% off any nutritional service. Call us at 636-899-1040. That's 636-899-1040.
Question, do you know what vermiculite is? It is an insulation in the attics of hundreds of thousands of homes and public buildings. Looks like kitty litter, but often contains asbestos. Wellington Environmental is the largest company in the Midwest that can remove that hazard for you. Wellington has what is called the General, a powerful industrial vacuum that can suck vermiculite out of the attic. Hang on, there's something else you should know. Many of you might qualify for up to a $4,000 rebate. You should at least contact Wellington to see if you qualify. And here's something else. Wellington arrives at the time they give you, not sometime within 4 hours. 314-644-4930. 644-4930. WellingtonSTL.com. WellingtonSTL.com. Wellington Environmental. Your world. Cleaner. Better, safer, and be well with Wellington.
Hey folks, Tim Jones here. I'm here with Stewie. Stewie, tell us all about the bagel loan and how people can use it to compete with the competition.
You know what, Tim? Inventory is low. You're going to have to be aggressive out there. We're going to give you the bagel loan. Bagel loan means no closing costs, no title fees, no lender fees. It's the big bagel. Take that money you would save, add it to your bid. You'll beat the competition hands down. Do it now and do it in 12 days.
Close in less than 12 days. Call Stewie 314-324-4440, or better yet, just Google the bagel loan.
MLS number 226715.
If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
The far left wants to destroy conservative values in America.
This is News Talk STL. Welcome home. You're listening to The Robb Carter Show on News Talk STL.
All right, everybody, little Hotel California. If you have not seen the history of the Eagles, that documentary, I urge you to see it. It was fantastic. If you are an Eagles fan, I think one of the best groups for writing music. Got a lot of songs that people remember. They dominated an era, the Eagles. Here we go. There we go. Love it. All right, we are continuing the conversation. The war on free peoples of the world continues. Mostly unaddressed by the citizens. We have not fought back in a manner that makes any sense just yet. We have not been able to organize or really push back on the establishment. And you're never going to push back unless you demand the elections be cleaned up. Just so you know, I'm going to keep saying it. You cannot push back on a tyrannical government unless you fix your elections. Ask Venezuela how it worked out for them. And now they're sending their criminals up through Mexico and into the United States. I don't think they got control of their elections anymore. You think? I don't think so. And I think some of the electronic voting machines that are in the United States, they were used in Venezuela too, just so you understand how it works. And they were used in the Philippines, and they were used around the world. And they're still here. Isn't that crazy? I think that the French, they don't use electronic voting machines. I heard that somewhere. I don't know if it's true. But I wonder why they wouldn't use them. Maybe they're just not very smart. They're not smart like we are. They're not smart like we are, because we need to know right away who won. Got to have better machines than humans. Always. Always better. I want to get into Paul Harvey, If I Were the Devil. You've heard it 1,000 times, but I want to kind of walk through what he's trying to say. This was in 1965. Before I do, let me run you through a few constitutional rights that people, I don't even think they know them anymore. I don't think people even understand what their constitutional rights are. They've been so watered down. Our school system has been so inept at explaining to citizens what their rights are. And I think that's by design. That would be my guess. If you're getting money from the federal government, they're telling you what to teach to your students. I don't think they want to teach you that you have constitutional rights that they can't infringe upon. But that's just my opinion. Again, observation. That's just an observation. Number 1, freedom of speech. Number 2, the right to keep and bear arms. Number 3 says a soldier during a time of war cannot take over your house and live in your house. I don't think that really applies to anything just yet, but maybe these illegal immigrants that are really soldiers from another country, they're squatting in our hotels. And there's a couple people within the government that are asking citizens to allow illegal immigrants to live with them. Open your doors, let them come on in. Oh, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Number 4, no illegal searches and seizure, or search and seizure. Think about that with the way technology works right now. Does anybody have the presumption of privacy anymore in this country? Does anybody really believe that the federal government isn't looking at their bank records? They're not looking at their health records. They're not, if they're communicating on their phone or the internet, that these people aren't watching us. Snowden, who left the freest country in the world because he let the American people know that the CIA was spying on him through their television sets and everything else, he had to flee to Mexico, the authoritarian communist. That's where he's hanging out, just so we all understand. Number 5, due process. You don't have to testify against yourself. I plead the 5th, if you know what I'm saying. Number 6 is a speedy trial. I would ask everybody that is in prison for the January 6th grand insurrection, unarmed insurrection. Again, because I say this every time, but I want to remind you again, if it hasn't clicked, if it hasn't went to the top floor just yet, and you are one of those people that actually believes that January 6th was an insurrection in America where all of the people involved did not bring guns, then I demand that you seek psychiatric help immediately, because you're not thinking very clearly. You're in some kind of a haze, something's not right, something's not working, and you need to get that looked at right away so that you can join the rest of us in some form of reality. Number 7, that you can have a jury trial in civil court cases. Number 8, no excessive bail, fines, or unusual punishment. I'd ask the January 6 people, do they think they are being treated fairly? Have you heard the stories about the January 6 prisoners that are in there? Terrible food. They've had 2 or 3, 4 people commit suicide. That's how miserable it is. January 6th, the grand unarmed insurrection led by a guy dressed as a Viking. The Ninth Amendment is interesting because it basically says if they forgot anything, it says rights retained by the people that are not specifically enumerated in the Constitution, meaning if they forgot something, the weight of the rights lies with the citizen. The entire Constitution is to make sure that the federal government doesn't exercise its power over the people. Do we feel that way anymore as a group? I don't get the feeling that many people around this country think that the government is actually working on our behalf. Feels like we're working for the government, doesn't it? And then the 10th Amendment is obviously states' rights. There's a lot of our rights that are being trampled on by the federal government. And there has to be some form of pushback at some point. Now I want to get to Paul Harvey. This was in 1965. It's been played a million times. If you have not heard it, you're going to love it. But Paul Harvey says, if I were the devil, I would look at that and say, if I were the enemy of America, this is the way I'd go about it. So if the devil is the enemy of America, perfect. If you think the enemy of America is big corporate, multinational governments or multinational corporations from around the world that have infiltrated our government and they want to be able to print money and do as they please and have you shut up and take it forever, then that might be the devil to you. I don't know. But it doesn't matter. There's an organized effort. There's an organized effort against the American people and all free peoples of the world right before you. You can watch it right now. You can see it every day if you're just paying attention. Drip, 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 drip. So long as you have bread and you have circus, they believe that you'll never see it until it's too late. That's what they believe. And up until this point, they've been right. Here is Paul Harvey. If I were the devil. Check it out.
If I were the devil. If I were the devil. If I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness, and I'd have a third of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree. Thee. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington.
That's a big one. That's a big one because when I was looking through the Declaration of Independence, the key, I think one of the underlying themes that needs to take place in order for us to really lose what's left of our constitutional rights is that we allow the government to determine whether we get them or we don't. They just change the laws and the regulations to usurp the Constitution. That's what they're doing. But it says right here, big as anything, can't miss it. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. What part of that is confusing to our government? What part is confusing to that woman that was on MSNBC that couldn't understand that Christian nationalists thought their rights came from God? Well, I don't know. The Declaration of Independence says so. That's how this country was formed, around that document. That's how it's structured, around that document, Heidi Prize-Byla. Insanity. Continue on.
And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed.
Think about that. Is that not what we're in the middle of? I don't think it's ever been like this in American history, where you have family, churches, and nations all at war with one another. That's why I keep bringing up divorce and the state getting in the middle of a divorce. Why does the government get in the middle of a man and a woman and their marriage between them and God? Why does the state get involved? Oh, it's to protect the kids. Nobody should be taken advantage of. I've always said, why don't we make our arrangements before we get married? When we're in love with one another and we want to go get married, why don't we divvy up how we want the relationship to end at that point? Why do we do it when we are at odds with one another, when our marriage is falling apart, everybody is bitter and angry, and then we bring in the government to solve it for us? They're going to be the arbiter. It makes absolutely no sense, but if you believe, as I do, that the government has to have its fingers on everything that's important in your life so they can control everything in your life in a free society, then it makes sense. But in reality, if we should just try to stick around in reality for a little bit, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever that the state of Missouri would be the arbiter of a divorce between me and my wife and my family. That's our business. Why don't you let us figure it out before we get married of how we want to go about it if we ever want to get divorced? Stay out of it, the state of Missouri. Continue on.
And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. How
about that? I just talked about that. You have to get God out of the square and turn it into science. If our understanding of everything we see around us can be explained by science and not God, then there's really no reason for existence. Your consciousness means nothing. If there's nothing bigger than what we understand, you'd have to be living in a fantasy land to believe that. There has to be something bigger than what we are. If you're a religious person like I and believe it's Jesus Christ, that makes sense to me. If it doesn't to you, that's fine. But we have to live under some idea that there's right and wrong, that there is an energy out there that we don't fully understand. And those rights that we have in the Constitution, those rights that were prescribed by the founders of our Constitution, founders of this country, they say the rights come from God, from our Creator. Can't get in the middle of it. Sorry, Democrats, because I know you want to turn it over to D.C. We don't.
Lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious.
Is that happening? When you look around with this illegal immigration, they are the ones getting all the money. They are getting all the houses. They are getting all the benefit. And all the people that have been working their tails off for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, they're getting squeezed to death. So you give to the people who want and you take away from the people that have, and it destroys the incentive for the ambitious. Does that sound familiar?
What'll you bet? I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing. Paul Harvey.
I love that. It's iconic now. People have been playing it because the more things change, the more they stay the same. That was in 1965. It rings true today, and it's even more clear today than it was then. This country's in a very perilous situation. I believe that it's getting more and more obvious by the day. And the reason it is so important that we do this show right now, the reason it is so important to me to get this information out, at least have people contemplate it. You don't have to agree with every word that I say. I don't even know that I agree with every word that I say. But the reason it's important is because we all believe in a system that has thrown us overboard long ago. And we believe, because of the conditioning through generations and the waving of the flag and the propaganda and the movies, that we are going to vote our way out of this situation. They sell that around the world. You have to be more clever than the people that are trying to play the con on you. You have to be able to think like a con artist. You have to be able to think like charlatans. If you're a good person and this doesn't make any sense to you, you just have to understand that there are many people in this world that care about nothing but power. They are driven by power. They're not worried about your feelings. They're not worried about whether they're being right or wrong. They don't care about anything but attaining power. They will do anything to attain power. How many people out there have worked in a corporation where you've worked next to somebody who would stab their mother in the heart to move up the corporate ladder? Everybody's been in that situation at some point or another. Those are the people that are in charge because those are the people that will do anything to get there. Therein lies a very big problem. The people in charge crave power. They don't crave anything else. You're not seeing Mr. Smith goes to Washington anymore. You're seeing an intelligence agency, big corporations, and a complicit media creating an illusion for the American citizens to buy into day after day so that they'll sit on their hands and not take their country back. And you'll be convinced that you need to go out and vote on Super Tuesday. You need to go out and vote in November, turn it over to Donald John, and everything will be just fine. And I'm going to leave you with this in this particular, before we go to break. When Julian Assange told you that the United States government does not look to win wars, they simply look to prolong them to money launder, that they don't want the war to end, and then you look at the borders within your country being wide open, with the right and the left fighting for the last, I don't even know how long, 50 years, fighting tooth and nail, political parties, $34 trillion in debt, our kids on drugs, society being dumbed down and fattened up. The war is internal as well, and they don't want this war to end. They do not want the left and the right to shake hands and say, I love you anyway. We disagree. Let's debate it out. We'll have fair elections. Whoever wins, wins for the day. We'll come back to fight in 4 years or 2 years or what have you. But I love you. You love me. We have to live in this world together. Let's be nice and kind to one another. They don't want that. Because if they wanted that, they'd have it. They don't. Don't go anywhere. It's a beautiful Tuesday evening, 9:45 on the Robb Carter Show. We'll be right back.
The Robb Carter Show, streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Now the Democrats aren't allowed to use the 14th Amendment against Donald Trump. Should Republicans use the 25th Amendment against Joe Biden? Oh yeah, we're going there on Wednesday's show.
Mornings starting at 5:30 on News Talk STL.
Does your life insurance plan include living benefits, hearing, diabetic supplies, teledoc service, discounts on urns, caskets, tombstones? Larry Connors here. I suggest you call Benjamin Schaefer at Senior Memorial. Call 314-866-8886 or visit memorialplans.com. Memorialplans.com. Senior Memorial Heritage Protection.
If the time has come to sell the house, you know you're empty nesters now, the kids are gone. Why do we need all these bedrooms? Yeah, selling the house may be a good idea. A better idea when you want to sell your house is to go to the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway. That's our great friends Rodney and Jen Wallner, who are so good at this, they sell 15 times more homes than your average realtor. So let them help you sell your house. just go to Rodney and Jen Wallner. Right, Mike Ferguson?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Vic. As a matter of fact, the first time I talked to Rodney and Jen about this cabin project that my wife and I have, they looked at all the factors and said, if I were you, I'd wait. When was the last time you heard somebody in real estate say, wait, don't buy something right now? Well, he knew the market conditions were going to change, and they did to our favor, but that shows how good they are at this and how honest and ethical Rodney and Jen Wallner are. That's why I won't work with anybody else. You shouldn't either. Give them a call today, 314-810-SOLD.
I'm always glad to have new sponsors, but I have turned some down. See, I only endorse clients if I believe in them. And I've been a spokesman for John Beal for 10 years. Through those years, listeners said they went with John Beal because they trusted me. And just recently, a woman named Mary wrote, "We got a John Beal roof based on your recommendation." Thank you, Mary, and all the others for calling John Beal. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF.
Classic Kicks Country is streaming now. Hear all your new country favorites from the 90s. I should have been a cowboy. Streaming as it happened in the 90s. Classic Kicks.
Let's go, girls.
Download the Classic Kicks app from the App Store. Online at ClassicKicks.com. I'll go back. Or enable the Classic Kicks skill on Alexa.
I love this station.
90s new country streaming now.
Number one for live and local conservative talk.
We don't know how far Russia's influence goes.
101.9 and 94.1.
No one wants a rematch of the 2020 election.
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
The Robb Carter Show on News Talk STL.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We had a little technical issue there. Sorry about that. I want to get right back into this conversation about the war on free people. It's always a big show for me. I do one every now and again just to remind people what's going on in the world, to understand what is happening. Some people won't believe it. You could tell them a million times. They won't see it through this lens. That's perfectly fine. But if you're feeling it and you understand it and you watch what happened during COVID, you're watching these wars around the world happening, if you're seeing this go down and you feel it and you understand it, you got to spread the word. Spread the word for me. We're on rumble.com every night from 8 to 10. This will eventually be an interactive forum where we can communicate back and forth with one another. I want to get organized as we get closer and closer to election season. I really want this I really want people to spread this word and get people to contemplate things. I think we're getting closer and closer to even the most conditioned, brainwashed people on the planet are starting to watch what's happening in this country and see it. I was driving in today, just on the street. I grew up around the area that we do the show. And as I was driving, there's so many immigrants. I don't know if they're legal or illegal. Down the road that I've been going down this road for 35, 40 years. It looks completely different now. When I stop at the 7-Eleven, the people that are coming back and forth, they're not even speaking English. What is happening? They filled up all these apartment complexes around the area where I am broadcasting from tonight. They're being dropped off. I told the story. I was in Orlando, driving down I-4, and I told my wife, I said, across the road, they're letting off people off of this bus, and they're carrying pillowcases full of their clothing and this and that and the other, and they're all walking toward the on-ramp, off-ramp. And I said, it just seemed very bizarre. It didn't look like the bus had broken down. It just looked like they were dropping these people off to go wherever they were going. And you know it's illegal immigration. I mean, it's hard to say, but you know it's illegal immigration because you got a bus full of people that are carrying pillowcases and walking up the street in 100-degree weather, being dropped off by a big charter white bus. This is happening all over the country. This cannot be allowed. When I talked about Triad and the Chinese mafia yesterday, you just have no idea where this is heading if you do not know the people that are being let across your border. We don't know why they're there. All we do know is that the leadership of this government does not have your best interest at heart. They don't. They proved that through COVID. They proved that through sending billions and billions and hundreds of billions of dollars over to Ukraine and explaining it to you in pure propaganda. All a lie. All a lie. I want to play this clip. This is Tucker Carlson with a guy named Douglas McGregor. Can we look up General Douglas McGregor? I do not think this guy is a club member. I'm curious, though, because he says a lot of things. He's been going on shows, and I like what he has to say. And I think I would know it if he was a club member. I think I've done my homework enough to know. But I don't think he went to one of the club schools, because he actually goes out onto these forums and really tells people the truth, looks in the camera, and tells people what they are up against and what's going on. So I'm hoping he did not go to a club school.
No, he went to West Point. He went to University of Virginia.
There you go. So he is not one of my club members. I figured I would know him if he was. But he was on Tucker Carlson recently, and I'm going to play just the back half of this interview that he did, because what he says toward the very end is we do not have control of our government anymore. I think he's implying that we don't have control of our elections. He didn't say as much, but he's basically saying the power that is supposed to lie in the hands of the people is no longer there. Check this out.
What happens when you arm those people? Do they miraculously transform?
And by the way, he's talking about people coming across the border, just like I talked about with Dick Durbin earlier. You have very prominent Democrats trying to get illegal immigrants into our military, take guns away from law-abiding citizens, and then hand weapons of war to illegal immigrants to fight in our military after they purged the military because people didn't want to get vaccinated with their magic potions. Put all that into your mind and just understand what's happening here. Because, again, if you think this is an accident, I would have to say I got a bridge to sell you somewhere. Just write me a check and I'll get you this bridge. Check it out.
Overnight into stalwart members of the American society and community? I doubt it.
I mean, I'll just ask you one more time. Do you think this could happen? I mean, do you think Congress is insane enough to allow this? Are there enough people with common sense or love of country to stop it? What's your guess?
Well, you're asking the question that we ask every day in our country, our choice. We think the answer is yes. There are plenty of people to stop it. The problem is Washington is donor occupied.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Donor occupied. The donors own the political figures. So what do the donors want? You've heard the expression, donors win elections, not voters. Well, if the voter isn't winning the election and the donor is winning it, are these policies not a function of the people delivering huge quantities of cash to the Hill, whether they're part of the pharmaceutical industry, a foreign lobby, or a defense lobby or something else? So who are the people in Washington responding to? They're not responding to me. I don't think they're responding to you. And I don't think most Americans feel that they're responsive at all. So the problem is not, do we have Americans who care? Of course we do. We have millions of them. We're not alone, but we're not in power, Tucker.
We're not in power, Tucker. That very last line is something you have to pay attention to. As much as we want to believe that we are in power, and I encourage everybody to go vote on Super Tuesday. I encourage everybody to go vote. Whenever there is something that you are that you understand the issues and you have a side that you believe in, go vote. You should vote. If it's nothing more than symbolic, you should go vote. And I believe many of the elections around this state and around this country are legit. But the ones that determine power, the real power in this country, it's not getting turned over. Nothing is changing when we get people we think are good in positions of power. And you have to pay attention to that. You have to pay attention to a system that is devised out of fraud. You have to see that. If you can't see past that and that doesn't reach the top floor in your mind, then I don't think we're ever going to move to where we need to be. If you can't recognize that the entire election system is set up for fraud, then how do we tackle any of the other issues that we have? How do we tackle them? What do we do? What's the process to figure it out? Because these voting machines have been used around the world. Nobody's talking about them. If you know that you have a government that is out of control, and that very government, Donald Trump just said the other day, paper ballots, same-day voting. Didn't mention the machines. Why would he not mention the machines? Donald Trump supporters, why would he not recognize that the machines are a problem? I just ask. Shouldn't you ask? Shouldn't somebody ask him? Because as I said before, whether you're Democrat or Republican, nobody wants them. But he doesn't seem to recognize that nobody wants them. He just says voter ID, same-day voting. Didn't say get rid of the mail-in ballots. Didn't say any of that stuff, just so you understand. One last thing, my sponsor, Pilgrim Pammy. If you need Medicare help, you got to call Pilgrim Pammy. 314-659-9841. She got a call from out of town. She was kind of excited today. Somebody from outside of Missouri called her, heard the show, stumbled upon it, and wanted to do some business with her. She's the most trustworthy, most honest, most awesome person you'd ever want to meet. She will take care of you. She won't lie to you. She'll guide you in the right directions because she's very bright. Pilgrim Pammy. All things Medicare. Get her advice. And don't forget, Pilgrim Pammy at 314-659-9841. One more time. 314-659-9841. Pilgrim Pammy will take care of you. Have a great night, everybody.
Hello, this is Eric from Newstetter's Fine Jewelry. We are proud to be the first store to introduce the lab-grown diamond to our St. Louis family. We are the exclusive home of the trademarked Wow Diamond, which is the most perfectly cut and polished diamond you will ever experience. When our customers see them, they just exclaim, wow. This is a diamond that will sparkle from across the room. These beautiful diamonds come in every size and shape to perfectly fit your needs. Let us educate you on these at wowdiamonds.com.
Tony Colombo here, reminding you to visit my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton before your next trip into the great outdoors. For decades, Bluff City Outdoors has covered all the needs for area fishermen, and they'll always have all the best bait, tackle, and gear for your next trip on the water. And now they cover all your bow hunting needs, including